I'm excited to be here. The idea of making a donation to these organizations came along with me producing the documentary for Netflix.
Diddy's lawyers also slammed Netflix for bringing on 50 Cent, Diddy's longtime rival, as an executive producer, alleging he has publicly attacked Diddy for decades.
If I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as the hip-hop is fine with his behaviors. There's no one else being vocal. You'll see a lot of energy that's coming from the same documentary. The celebrity culture didn't say anything about those things that were going on for a very long time. And it's because they're afraid of people who have success. But I have success without any of those things involved. You know, so I have, I don't care. You know, and I'll look and you'll see, like, I'll have minor specks or disputes that you'll see verbally. Those things will happen because those people were comfortable with things that were going on, or they accepted it. You know, and there's a lot of, I don't want to go too far into the negative side of things, but there's a lot of people that are finding their way through others, like they're following people, you know what I mean? And they've been in the league for a long time, so they let them get away with a lot. You know, and I'm excited to be a part of the community and participate in a different way. And Tabitha was the right person to make the connection. Completely. And my prestigious attorney. Ron directed me to the right path to make the difference the right way. And I'm like, my grandfather, he said, say less and do more, boy. He said, you know, I gotta, you know, I like to speak through my actions. You know, so y'all know what time it is. Like,
Hold up, you see this shift, right? Because I'm looking at it like, this feels like a full-on rebrand happening in real time. Yeah, something about this whole situation is starting to look very calculated. Sean Diddy Combs is allegedly on his way back into the spotlight. And now we're seeing Young Miami, yeah, Carisha, step out and start talking again. She even pulled up to speak with Charlemagne the God. And now here comes USHER, speaking on Diddy in a positive light. So now you gotta ask yourself, is this a rebrand? Are people slowly trying to clean up that messy narrative? Meanwhile, 50 Cent is not letting anything slide, going straight at USHER after that interview. Let's break this down. If you're new here or you've been rocking with me, hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure your notifications are on, because this right here, it's fresh and it's unfolding in real time. You can literally see the shift happening. It feels like he's making a return, and suddenly people close to him are finding their voices again. And yeah, that alone has people raising eyebrows. Then you've got Young Miami doubling down with positive energy about Diddy. And now USHER stepping forward? That stands out because he's been quiet for a long time. Don't forget, for years there have been whispers and rumors about what USHER experienced when he was younger. I'm just saying, for some people, this whole thing is starting to feel uncomfortable. It makes you question how deep that influence really went. You get what I'm saying? Diddy had reach, serious reach, over a lot of these artists. Even names like Justin Bieber come up in these conversations. And let's be real, he was around them early, so it's not shocking if they're not quick to speak against him. I'm just calling it how it looks. But I had to bring this up because USHER is basically saying he has nothing negative to say about Diddy. No hesitation. And then there's that viral image floating around with Justin Bieber and USHER. I don't even know if that's legit. It could be AI, it could be fake, or something else entirely. Because right now, everything feels off, like nothing is fully real anymore. Everything looks edited, everything feels staged. And that makes it way harder to separate truth from noise. At the end of the day, most of what we've heard is still just rumors. Justin Bieber has never come out and directly spoken on Diddy like that. And USHER hasn't gone on any wild rants either. So now let me show you this clip so you can hear it for yourself. Really listen closely to what USHER is saying, because what he's pushing is this idea: focus on the legacy, not the allegations. That's the message. But let's be honest, that puts him in a tough position. I've got to call that out. He's standing firm, 10 toes down, showing loyalty to Diddy, no matter what people are saying. Even with backlash coming in, he's not switching up, and that's where things get complicated. For years, there's been speculation about what really went down behind the scenes between him and Diddy. So when Usher comes out like this, defending, standing solid, it puts the spotlight right back on him. He's not backing off at all. Now he's saying Diddy taught him the game, how to move, how to win in the industry. And let's be real, a lot of artists respect that, because people don't just see Diddy one way. They also see the businessman, the mogul, the guy who built real power and influence. And that image, it hasn't disappeared, not even with everything being said right now. And when you look at what's publicly out there, people keep pointing out that it involves adults making their own choices. That's the narrative being pushed. So yeah, this situation stays layered, complicated, and that's why you've got to look at every angle. Because at the end of the day, if you really break down what Usher is saying, it sounds like this.
I don't have anything negative to say about Sean Combs because my experience was not what the world has seen. I mean, this might be a bit controversial, but in the same way, I think many people choose to look past the reality of what our country is, the standards that we now stand on. We can't ignore the reality of the history, but in many ways, I think certain people are prosecuted and maybe not recognized for the greatness, that they offer. I don't have anything negative to say about Sean Combs because my experience was not what the world has seen and how he's been, misrepresented. I'm not saying that every man is perfect. I'm not saying that all of us don't have flaws, but I can't, with any sense of humanity, not recognize the valuable contributions that this man made.
Look, no matter that Cassie Ventura video, and no matter all the rumors people keep circulating, Usher is choosing to lock in on one thing only: what Sean Diddy Combs taught him. That's the core message. He's basically drawing a line, separating the game he learned from everything else being said out here. And yeah, people have been throwing out all kinds of stories for years, even pulling names like Justin Bieber into the mix. A lot is happening, a lot of noise, a lot of speculation flying around. But Usher is standing solid, saying none of that takes away from what he gained from Diddy as a businessman. That's a bold position, no matter how you try to spin it. But I'm gonna be real with you, that kind of stance comes with a certain energy.
For us as Black entrepreneurs, for us as businessmen, for us as people who transition, culture and ideas into something that's tangible and becomes business, so many people benefited from what he created. And I acknowledge that. And that's why I see him as legacy.
You told Shannon Sharp you learned a lot about business during that era.
Absolutely.
What'd you learn?
Puff was a mentor, but he was like you have that really, really hard teacher, but you're watching something in real time. I think that the idea of the level of discipline that came with that time in business, especially in an era that was trying to prove itself culturally in hip hop. Now, you can't turn on the television and not see the influence of hip hop.
That's right.
But the people who actually made that appropriate and are the forefathers are people like Sean Combs.
It really forces you to slow down and look at this from a deeper angle. Because when someone chooses to brush past everything else and only spotlight the positives, it naturally brings up questions. And keep in mind, this is just my take. We've never really heard Justin Bieber or Usher come out and openly speak negatively about Sean Diddy Combs in that kind of direct way. Meanwhile, 50 Cent is on the opposite side, going full throttle, making moves, pushing his narrative, and clearly trying to expose things from his perspective. Two completely different energies are colliding head-on. And if you look at the comment sections online, people are fired up, throwing out strong opinions about how everything should have been handled. That alone shows how divided this whole conversation really is, and why so many people are paying close attention. Some are even saying certain individuals didn't do enough, and they keep pointing back to that viral image making the rounds. But honestly, its authenticity is still in question.
And not just in the great times that they had musically, but in the idea of being able to find ways to monetize culture and create something that was not just black or white. It was colorless. It was green. That's who I see that man as. And that's what I choose to remember. I put respect on his name because I realized that, what I learned as a businessman before I even understood what business was, came as a result of seeing the incredible things that he was able to do and the way that he positioned himself as a businessman.
In today's environment, almost anything can be edited, reshaped, or taken out of context in seconds. Still, people argue that it's possible to acknowledge someone's achievements while not ignoring the more serious conversations tied to their name. That's the debate right now, and it's getting louder by the day. Now listen, I'm keeping it real with you. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything or play both sides. There have been plenty of claims surrounding Sean Diddy Combs over the years, but when things were discussed publicly, many pointed to situations involving adults making independent decisions. That's the narrative that's been presented. So yeah, some believe a specific storyline has been shaped around him, while others feel everything is exactly as it appears on the surface. That divide is very real. And then you've got 50 Cent stepping in, creating content, highlighting interviews, and pulling more voices into the conversation. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed that once quiet people are speaking up now. And that shift is exactly what's amplifying this situation even further right now.
The trials and tribulations that come with the pressures of success and power. But what we choose to do with it is what I hope that you see with me and hopefully all the people that I'm involved with, right?
Meanwhile, USHER is taking a lot of heat. People are saying that once social media fully locks in, things could get even more intense for him. And it's not just him. Young Miami came out with a similar tone, which is why folks online are now calling this a coordinated rebrand. They're claiming it's about image control, protecting legacy, and possibly setting up future opportunities. Some even believe this silence and public support isn't random at all. It's strategic, like everything is aligning for when the situation shifts again. That's how far the conversation has gone. But one thing is undeniable. Many of these artists came up around Sean Diddy Combs, learned from him, and that influence is still visible today, whether people want to admit it or not. Now online, people are going wild with theories, throwing out claims and pointing to clips, documentaries, and anything they think supports their view. And let's not forget, 50 Cent already dropped content that put a spotlight on all of this, and that alone stirred the conversation even further. From that moment on, the narrative kept expanding. People started connecting dots, making assumptions, and running with them. Some even say what used to be joked about online has now come back with a more serious tone. No question, it's messy, and 50 Cent isn't backing off either. He's making sure the topic stays alive, making sure his perspective is heard, and keeping Diddy in the conversation. Right after Usher's comments, he posted reactions highlighting how Usher didn't say anything negative while still praising Diddy's contributions. That alone pushed the discussion even further. Then 50 turned around and added his own commentary, questioning how certain figures are perceived and whether the full picture is actually being told. At the same time, he's clearly not accepting the clean image narrative at face value. That's where the tension really starts to build. And whenever 50 locks in on something, you already know he goes all the way in. This entire situation just keeps escalating. Online reactions are mixed. Some people are joking, others are skeptical, and many are watching closely. And if we're being honest, it does look complicated from every angle. But here's the reality. Everyone's experience with Diddy is different, not identical. So naturally, Usher is going to speak from his own perspective and protect his own position. Rumors have been around for years, but public, confirmed evidence for many of these claims hasn't been clearly established. Meanwhile, Young Miami speaks in a way that aligns with her own interests and keeps her position intact. The same applies to Justin Bieber and others connected to that circle. People tend to move based on what benefits them. That's how the industry operates. And it's important not to overlook the business side of things. Diddy still has significant financial power and ongoing business ties. There are companies that people interact with daily without even realizing their connections behind the scenes. So even with all the public discussion, the financial influence remains active. That's why when dynamics shift, people are often forced to take positions. Usher has made his stance clear. Others may stay quiet for now, while some may speak later, but the pressure is definitely building. And while there's been plenty of talk, not everything has been officially confirmed, which keeps the situation in a gray area. Justin Bieber has never publicly come out and spoken negatively in that way. But at this point, it feels like this could stretch into something long-term. The question now is how things unfold between 50 Cent and Diddy once Diddy is fully back in the public eye. Are we about to see constant back and forth on social media again? Because realistically, that's where most of these battles play out today. Both sides have narratives, both have influence, and both carry serious weight. This isn't a minor disagreement, it's two major forces in collision. And when that happens, things escalate quickly. As for Usher, that's his viewpoint, and he's entitled to it. No one can dictate how he interprets his own experiences. The same goes for Justin Bieber. They've stayed quiet, which leaves the public trying to fill in the gaps. Personally, I don't run with anything unless it's clearly stated by the person themselves. That's just the standard I stick to. At the end of the day, I'm not here to create the story. I'm here to break it down. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this a coordinated image shift ahead of Diddy stepping back into the spotlight? Now that Young Miami and Usher are speaking, the pressure is clearly rising. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and stay tuned. Appreciate everyone supporting the channel.